verse 33. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman has cooked and mixed in with 3 measures of flour until all of it was leavened.
As Jesus followers, we live with an invitation to understand that God is with us and that God's love is always present and always moving. However, you may be someone like me and wonder, where is God? Why doesn't God fix things? Well, you understand, whenever I say, why doesn't God fix things, I have my understanding of how God ought to function. So we can't count on that. But where is God? And how does God move? It was a hot summer day. One of those really hot days, like in Iraq, Afghanistan, Jordan, Yemen, out in the desert. They stopped. They tried to find a little oasis. They were camped out. It was miserably hot. And on that afternoon, he was sitting outside his tent, quietly trying to rest, relax. Perhaps he was dozing off and just looking out into emptiness. Just emptiness. Everywhere he could see. Sand, sand. Hot, hot. Not a cloud in the sky. As he sat, he could see the heat waves moving up and down, bouncing off the sand. No breeze whatsoever. And then he noticed 3 people approaching. Maybe he thought, oh, it's just a mirage, or I must be half asleep. It was miserably hot. He was tired. And then he saw, no, 3 people were coming. He jumped up, went in his tent, and said, Sarah, quick, prepare some bread. He went out to the servants and said, kill the fatted calf, make a feast. And the 3 strangers approached the tent, and Abram rushed out, fell to the ground, greeted them, and said, welcome, come, sit over in the cool. Let me get you something to drink. We're fixing you something to eat. And they had a feast for them. One of them was God. And God said to Abraham and Sarah, I am with you. I will always be with you. And I promise that you, even though you are old, will have a son to carry on. Where is God? Here was the promise to our ancestor in the faith. Abraham and Sarah, you will have a child. Now, you're not going to believe this, but at 8:30 I said, you know, having a baby's no big deal. I said it. Yeah, well, I immediately noticed the looks. And so I self-corrected very, very quickly. Now, I mean, I'm the guy when my daughter was born. I said to my wife, wow, this is the greatest experience I've ever had. Fortunately, I was several feet away. But I really intended to say, excuse me, was having a baby is pretty normal for humans and animals, okay?
A little better.
I tried, that's all I could do. So, what kind of promise is that? You're going to have a baby. Oh, okay, it seemed highly unusual, but still, human beings have babies. And that's the way God works. Well, we say, yeah, Jesus was born. God with us. The gift of God and a little baby. But again, it's a baby. It's a normal, natural process. And yet, here is God saying, I am with you. And to you, a child shall be born. Oh, this when Jesus grew up and taught, healed, brought people life and love. He was murdered. He was raised from the dead. But he tried to help people understand God. And he did so by telling little stories we call parables. Here's one. The empire of God, the realm of God's love, is like a woman who took leaven, hid it in flour until it was all leavened. And we hear the parable and we say, oh, that's nice. But I wonder if we really hear the parable. It starts out with, the empire of God is like a woman. Now, in patriarchal societies, women were not seen as first-class citizens. In fact, they were often ignored, and certainly in many of the religious cultural rituals, they were seen as unclean, unholy. And we still know that tradition today. In certain circles, women cannot be ordained. So, God's way of love is like a woman who took, our reading said yeast. One of the biblical scholars I read said, it's not yeast. Yeast is a domesticated product. It was leaven. A woman who took leaven. What I've read about leaven is, the way you make leaven, you take an old piece of bread, put it in a container, cover it up, put it in a dark place, and let it rot until it starts fermenting. Gets mold and young all over it, starts stinking. And then you use that to make bread. My son makes sourdough bread. I was going to bring some of his starter, but I forgot. And that's one illustration, this little sourdough starter over here that's sitting on this little stool. You can come up and smell it. Make great bread, but it really doesn't smell that good. Well, sourdough is not really true leaven either. Leaven is just rotten stuff. However, in the Jewish understanding of leaven, leaven was seen as unclean. In that great Passover celebration, where the children of Israel escaped from Egypt, God said, you shall have a feast of unleavened bread. For 7 days you shall have unleavened bread. Furthermore, you shall get leaven completely out of your house. Your house can't have any leaven. Because you are a holy people. No leaven. Now, some people say, well, Jesus' hearers probably didn't understand it that way, because leaven's not always seen as bad. But 2 times in the New Testament, the Apostle Paul writes that when you have evil among you, it's like leaven corrupting your whole group. We have a little saying called, one rotten apple spoils the whole barrel. Leaven. It's probably not good stuff. Certainly not holy. So here we have The realm of God's love is like a woman who took leaven and concealed it, hid it, concealed it. The word is concealed, not just hide. Concealed it. Tried to keep anybody from noticing she was hiding this leaven. Then here comes the kicker. In 3 measures of flour. Now, over here, I have the other illustration, this stool sitting here. Actually, it's a table because I've got this huge 50-pound sack of flour here. Now, trust me, I know carrying 50 pounds is heavy, okay? But 50 pounds of flour is a little bit awkward. I had trouble getting it in here. But you can see 50 pounds of flour is a lot of flour. 50 pounds right here. And got this so you can see it and see how much that is. And I know you're pleased that I was able to get that illustration and set it up for you. I tried to get the technology to work earlier too. Thank you, Dave, for figuring the technology out. But 50 pounds is probably enough flour to make enough bread for over 100 people. 3 measures of flour. When Abraham rushed into the tent and said to Sarah, "Quick, take 3 measures of flour and make bread." When Elijah went to the widow in the foreign country and said, "Give me something to eat," she says, "I have nothing to eat." He said, "Take 3 measures of flour." 3 measures of flour. Aha! We can expect God to be present whenever 3 measures of flour are mentioned. Until it's all leavened. Until the leaven has gone all through 3 measures of flour, God's presence. Well, we know what this means. You know, it starts out small like a little lump of leaven and God's love infiltrates everything. Well, maybe. On the other hand, the empire of love, God's realm of love, is like a woman who took leaven and concealed it in 3 measures of flour, until it was all leavened. Brother Brendan Scott, in commenting on this, says, in one sentence parable, Jesus totally redefines God. Furthermore, he goes on to say, in essence, this parable says, God is corrupt. God is unclean. All of us here are nice, decent people. We don't want to condone corruption. And so to hear a parable that says God's way of love is like a corrupting influence in the world, how in the world do we deal with that? Well, corrupt in what way? Typically, corruption is doing something illegal or unethical for my personal gain. But corruption can also be seen as subverting, undermining, challenging, resisting, standing up to status quo. Certainly, the presence of God in Jesus Christ, the movement of the Holy Spirit in the lives of those great followers of the faith consistently undermine the way things are in order to bring about God's presence. Whenever God's movement challenges our carefully little built worlds of making sure that everything is okay in my life and those people I love and care for are okay, then that's corruption. Clearly, if we'll read our scripture and listen to Jesus, God is consistently on the side of the poor, the oppressed, the people of color who are rejected for the color of their skin, the hurting, the hungry, the homeless, the powerless. God's realm of love is like a woman who took rotten stuff and concealed it in the world until it spread throughout all the world. Whenever we just go along with either not challenging racism or maybe even condoning racism, sexism, condoning the way things work in our world, that some people are forced to live in poverty, simply saying, well, it's okay that the poor people in Texas, Louisiana, who have no resources, flimsy little house, probably people of poverty, much too often people of color, maybe enough food they thought they might be able to have a little something to eat tomorrow when it's all blown away or washed away. We say, wow, that's too bad. To simply stand by and worry about how things are going in our life, while families, mothers, are watching either their children, our friends' children, blown up by bombs dropping out of the sky in the nation of Yemen. Whenever we challenge that, that's a corruption. To simply say, well, it's simply the way things are, so we can't make any difference. If we challenge that at all, that's a corruption. I tried to figure out all week why in the world did I name this sermon Turning Inside Out. Well, as I got in the middle of it at 8:30, I finally figured it out. Now I kind of feel like I'm turned inside out. I mean, my life's really, really good. I spend a lot of time not thinking about people who don't have enough to eat, who don't have a place to live. People who are being bombed. People who are being called names, rejected, simply because their skin color is different than mine. I I spent a lot of time ignoring that and worrying about whether my darn technology works on Sunday morning. As I read this parable, not only do I hear the good news that God is with us, that God's love spreads throughout everything, whether we want it to or not. It's like leavening everything. Not only do I hear the good news that God is concerned about those people who are hurting and struggling, but I hear this entire parable as an invitation to understand. Yes, God wants to subvert the way things are, invite us into new ways of living, because God wants to bring light and love to everybody. It's a parable of grace. Here we have an activity of a nurturing woman taking an everyday thing like leaven and forming the dough that will make the bread that will give nurture and nourishment to people. That's God's movement. May we be able to celebrate that and say that somehow, in the midst of everything, God is moving, sometimes in strange and mysterious ways that we can't put our finger on. I went to a minister's conference I can't remember where I was now. I might have been in Salina, or maybe I was in Nebraska, Ken, I don't know. But I went to a minister's conference, and I got to see some videos. Who all knows, and you don't have to tell us about it, just raise your hand. Who all knows about improv everywhere? I'm not surprised. Well, I got to see some videos from Improv Everywhere. Not quite yet, but these are folks who just get together and say, let's do an improv. Improvisation, no rehearsal, Sue, no rehearsal, no practice. They just get together and do it. They've done some really cool things, like underwear on the subway. I'm not showing you that one. It's kind of cool, though. Or like going to Best Buy, like 100 or 150 of them going into Best Buy with the same colored shirts as the employees. Just invading a Best Buy. And there's all sorts of, but the one I watched is this one. And it just made me think, isn't this what we ought to do as a church? Some sort of an extravagant, wild and crazy thing, bringing goodness, grace, and love into the lives of people for no reason whatsoever. We don't even have to practice. We can just show up. Here is the wedding reception.
All right, thanks for coming out, everybody. Today's mission is called Surprise Wedding Reception. I'm going to go over to the office of the city clerk, which is right over there, and I'm going to find a random couple who is being married by the city. And after their ceremony, I'm going to approach them and say, would you like to have a free wedding reception, compliments of the mayor's office? Hopefully they'll say yes, and we have the tent set up, and hopefully we'll have an awesome reception with two strangers. Check audio. There are a few faces behind me. I guess I'll be on the stairs. White dress, very sweet. They're really on the way now.
When the groom's been here and the bridesmaids there, and they're going to come on through and say, introducing Mr. and Mrs. Blah.
You guys are the couple that just got married, right? First of all, congratulations. And second of all, I work with the mayor's office. And we're throwing one free wedding reception a day to someone who's getting married here. So if you'd like to, we're just choosing one random couple to try to promote this. We've got the tent set up over there. We have a cake for you guys. We have presents for you guys. Yeah, I promise. Okay, awesome. That's great. Cool. No, I promise. I'm Charlie, by the way. Okay, and what's your last name? We'll write it on the cake.
To your happiness and to love.
We're so glad that you two met each other. Brock, you are an amazing person. When you two are together, it really warms my heart. To the couple, how are you?
What do you think? Do you think somebody's got like a gut feel right there? For no reason. Just because some people wanted to have a good time. They threw a wedding reception for somebody. Now, my friends, what wild and crazy group, other than the church, is going to reach out in extravagant love for no reason? Doesn't it have to be the church? I think filling buckets is a little bit like a woman who took leaven, concealed it in 3 measures of flour until it was all leaven.